Currently, in 2025, something unusual is happening. Farrah Fawcett's bronze sculptures just sold for nearly $500,000. Salons across America are flooded with requests for the iconic Farrah Flip. Young celebrities are copying her feathered hair and that legendary red swimsuit look. But here's the twist. This isn't just nostalgia. New revelations about her final years are emerging, and the truth about what Hollywood did to her is finally coming to light. Behind that million-dollar smile was a woman who fought battles most of us never knew existed. She was paid only $5,000 per episode, while Charlie's Angels made millions off her face. When she demanded respect, they sued her for $13 million and tried to destroy her career. But that's just the beginning. The real story involves hidden love letters, a secret will, experimental treatments in Germany, and a foundation that's still changing lives today. What happened in her last days will shock you. The woman you thought you knew, you don't know her at all. Stay with us as we uncover the untold truth about Farrah Fawcett, a story Hollywood tried to bury. The girl who dreamed bigger. February 2nd, 1947. A baby girl was born in Corpus Christi, Texas, and her parents named her Mary Farrah Lenny Fawcett. Her father, James, spent long days working in the oil fields under the brutal Texas sun. Her mother, Pauline, kept a strict Catholic home where rules mattered and discipline came first. Money was tight, but the family held together through hard work and faith. Farrah grew up as the younger of two daughters. Her older sister, Diane, was the quiet one. Farrah was different from the start. While neighborhood kids rode bikes and played tag in the dusty streets, she sat inside drawing and sculpting. Her hands were always covered in paint or clay. By age 5, she was winning art competitions at local fairs. Parents would stop and stare at her work, unable to believe a kindergartner had created something so detailed. Teachers noticed something special, a focus that didn't match her age. She could spend hours shaping clay into faces and figures, getting lost in the work while other children got bored after 10 minutes. Her mother tried to push her toward more practical interests. Cooking, cleaning, put repairing to be a good wife someday. But Farrah's mind wandered elsewhere. She sketched during Mass. She sculpted during family dinners. Art wasn't a hobby for her. It was a need, like breathing. High school changed everything. At W.B. Ray High School, students voted her most beautiful 4 years in a row. Suddenly, everyone noticed her. Boys lined up to ask her out. Girls either wanted to be her friend or couldn't stand her. She won beauty pageants without even trying. Local newspapers wrote about Corpus Christi's golden girl. But Farrah saw beauty as a trap, not a gift. She hated how people stopped listening when they looked at her. She wanted people to see her art, not just her face. She wanted to be known for what she created, not how she looked. Her teachers encouraged her to think bigger. She had the grades for any college she wanted. Science fascinated her with the idea of discovering cures, solving problems that mattered. In 1965, she earned a scholarship to the University of Texas at Austin. Her plan? Study microbiology and work in a lab. She wanted to cure diseases and discover something meaningful that would change lives. But fate had other plans. One afternoon on campus, a photographer snapped her picture. She didn't think much of it, just another random campus photo. But that photo landed on a Hollywood publicist's desk. Phone calls started coming, offers rolled in. Modeling agencies, acting opportunities, chances to try something completely different. Her parents told her to stay in school. "You have a future in science," her father said. "Don't throw it away for some Hollywood dream." Her gut told her to take the risk. Something pulled at her, a voice saying this was her moment. At 20 years old, Farrah Fawcett made a choice that would change everything. She packed a single suitcase with a few dresses, some photos, and her art supplies. She counted out $400, all the money she had saved. She kissed her parents goodbye, promised she'd be careful, and boarded a bus headed west. Los Angeles was waiting, and nothing would ever be the same. Survival mode. Los Angeles in 1967 wasn't kind to dreamers. Farrah arrived with no connections, no agent, and no safety net. She rented a tiny apartment in a rough neighborhood where sirens kept her up at night. Her first job? Washing hair at a salon. She worked long hours for low pay, coming home with sore feet and chemical burns on her hands. Between shifts, she printed headshots at a cheap copy shop and mailed them to casting directors who never responded. Auditions were brutal. Casting directors looked at her for 5 seconds and said, "Next." Directors told her she was too pretty to be smart, too soft to be tough. One producer said to her face, "You're a body, not an actress." She survived on canned soup and bread. Some days she couldn't afford both food and gas, so she walked to auditions in heels. Her roommate moved out after 2 months, leaving Farrah to cover the full rent alone. The work that did come wasn't glamorous. Toothpaste commercials, shampoo ads, a 3-second appearance on I Dream of Jeannie, where she had no lines. She played pretty girl number 2 in a French film called Love is a Funny Thing That Barely Anyone Saw. Playboy called. The money they offered could have solved all her problems. $10,000 for a single photo shoot. Her agent begged her to take it. "This is how stars are made," he said. Farrah refused. No nudity, no exceptions. The agent dropped her. Months turned into years. Callbacks led nowhere. Rent piled up. She thought about going home to Texas 100 times, but something inside her wouldn't quit. Then, in 1976, a photographer named Bruce McBroom asked if she'd pose for a simple poster shoot. No big budget, no major company backing it. Just Farrah in a red swimsuit, smiling at a camera. She agreed. The shoot took less than an hour. She styled her own hair. She chose the swimsuit herself. When the poster hit stores, nobody expected much. The Golden Cage. Charlie's Angels premiered on September 22, 1976. Farrah played Jill Monroe, a smart detective with athletic skills and that unforgettable smile. The show became an instant hit, pulling in 30 million viewers every week. Farrah's character was the favorite. Fan mail poured in by the thousands. Magazines fought for her on their covers. Toy companies rushed to produce dolls, lunchboxes, and t-shirts with her face. Here's what most people didn't know. Farrah was paid $5,000 per episode. Sounds like good money, right? But the show's producers were making millions from merchandise with her image. Dolls sold out in stores within hours. Posters kept flying off shelves. Lunchboxes, board games, and action figures all stamped with Farrah's face. She didn't see a single penny from any of it. Her contract gave her a flat fee and nothing more. No royalties, no bonuses, no percentage of profits. She worked 16-hour days on set. Producers demanded perfection in every take but refused her requests for better scripts. When she asked for storylines that showed Jill as more than just pretty backup, they laughed. "You're here to look good," one executive told her. "Leave the thinking to the writers." Behind the scenes, the other cast members started to resent her. It wasn't her fault she became the breakout star, but jealousy doesn't care about fairness. Tension on set grew thick. After one season, Farrah made a decision that shocked Hollywood. She quit. She wanted out of the cage, even if it meant losing everything. The studio's response was vicious. They sued her for $13 million for breach of contract. Industry insiders called her ungrateful, difficult, a diva. Producers blacklisted her, making sure other networks knew she was trouble. Headlines screamed, "Farrah Fawcett, career suicide?" Critics predicted she'd be forgotten within a year. She fought back. Her lawyers argued that the studio had exploited her image without fair compensation. The case dragged through the courts for months. Eventually, they settled. Farrah would return for 6 guest appearances, and the lawsuit would be dropped. But the damage was done. Hollywood's message was clear: stay in your place, or we'll destroy you. When the cameras stopped loving her? Movie studios wanted Farrah after Charlie's Angels, but not in the way she hoped. They offered her roles that required nudity, helpless screaming, or playing the pretty girlfriend with no personality. Every script that landed on her table felt like an insult wrapped in a paycheck. She took what she could get, hoping something would break through. Somebody Killed Her Husband, 1978, bombed at the box office. Critics called it a disaster and blamed Farrah, even though the script was weak and the direction was worse. The movie lost millions. Her name was attached to the failure. Sunburn, 1979, came next, another failure that barely made it through its theatrical run. Reviewers wrote harsh lines about her acting, her choices, and her inability to transition from television. Then, Saturn III, 1980, a science fiction film where she starred opposite Kirk Douglas. Critics tore it apart. One review called her performance lifeless. Another said she looked confused in every scene. What they didn't mention was how directors pushed her toward nude scenes during filming. When she refused, they'd get angry. Producers would threaten to replace her or cut her role down to nothing. One director told her flat out during a private meeting, "If you won't take your clothes off, what good are you?" She walked out of that room shaking, but she kept saying no. The industry treated her like a failed experiment. Casting directors who once fought to get her in their projects stopped returning her calls. Magazines that once begged for interviews now ignored her publicist's emails. She'd show up to auditions and see the disappointment in people's eyes. They wanted the poster girl, not the woman standing in front of them trying to be taken seriously. Her personal life was falling apart too. She'd married Lee Majors, star of The $6 Million Man, back in 1973 when both were still climbing toward fame. They seemed perfect together, two beautiful people building careers side by side. But success poisoned the marriage. Lee couldn't handle Farrah becoming more famous than him. At parties, he'd make cruel jokes about her acting skills in front of other celebrities. He controlled who she could see and where she could go. Friends noticed bruises she tried to hide with makeup. When she complained, he'd tell her she was being dramatic. Their divorce in 1982 became tabloid fuel. Lee painted her as the villain, selfish, obsessed with fame, a bad wife. The media ran with it. Headlines called her a diva and difficult. Nobody asked for her side of the story. Then came Ryan O'Neal, handsome, charming, and completely unstable. He was everything Lee wasn't: spontaneous, passionate, unpredictable. Their relationship burned hot from the start, but Ryan cheated constantly. He'd disappear for days, then show up with flowers and apologies. They'd break up, swear it was over, then get back together within weeks. Friends begged her to leave him. She couldn't. In 1985, Farrah gave birth to their son, Redmond. She hoped a baby would settle Ryan down, give him something to focus on besides drinking and running around. She imagined them becoming a real family. It didn't work. Ryan's drinking got worse after Redmond was born. His temper flared without warning, throwing furniture, punching walls, screaming until neighbors called the police. Officers showed up at their home more than once. Farrah would smile, apologize, say everything was fine. They'd leave, and the chaos would start again. But Farrah stayed. She believed she could fix him. She believed love would be enough. Through it all, she stayed in touch with an old boyfriend from her college days, Greg Lott. He lived a quiet life in Texas, far away from Hollywood's madness. They wrote letters back and forth. He called when things got dark, just to check on her. He never asked her for anything. No money, no favors, no spotlight. He just cared. Greg represented something she'd lost: simplicity, kindness, a life that made sense. But Farrah wasn't done fighting, not even close. Proving them all wrong, Farrah landed a role in The Burning Bed, a TV movie about a woman who sets fire to her abusive husband while he sleeps. Critics expected her to fail. They thought she'd be out of her depth playing something serious. She studied for months. She met with domestic violence survivors. She lived inside the character's pain. When the movie aired, 30 million people watched. Farrah's performance stunned everyone. She earned an Emmy nomination. Suddenly, people saw her differently. She wasn't just a poster, she was an actress. Next came Extremities, 1986, a stage play where her character fights back against a rapist. Every night on stage, Farrah threw herself into brutal physical scenes. She left performances covered in bruises. Theater critics wrote rave reviews. Then, Small Sacrifices, 1989, where she played a mother who shot her own children. Dark, disturbing, and miles away from Jill Monroe. Another Emmy nomination. During this period, Farrah also took studios to court over unpaid merchandise royalties from her Charlie's Angels days. She won. The settlement was sealed, but insiders said it was in the millions. She spoke publicly about attending rehab, admitting struggles with prescription pills. In the 1980s, celebrities didn't admit things like that. Farrah didn't care. She wanted to be honest. Most shocking of all, she testified against a powerful Hollywood producer who had assaulted her during a casting meeting years earlier. Her lawyers warned her, "This will cost you jobs." She testified anyway. The producer was never criminally charged. The system protected him. But Farrah's courage inspired other women to speak up. Every step forward came with a cost. Job offers dried up after the testimony. Whisper campaigns called her difficult, unstable, and attention-seeking. But she kept working, kept fighting, kept refusing to disappear. By the late 1990s, Farrah had reinvented herself completely. She'd proven she was more than a pretty face. She'd survived an industry designed to chew up women like her. Then, in 2006, her biggest fight began, the battle she couldn't win. Farrah noticed the bleeding in early 2006. She ignored it at first. Who wants to think about the worst-case scenario? She told herself it was nothing, maybe stress, maybe something that would go away on its own. But when it didn't stop after weeks, when the pain started keeping her awake at night, she finally went to the doctor. The results came back fast. Anal cancer, stage 3, aggressive and spreading fast. She was 59 years old. Farrah sat in the doctor's office, hearing words that didn't feel real. Tumor, chemotherapy, radiation, surgery. The doctor's mouth kept moving, but her mind went somewhere else. She'd survived Hollywood, bad marriages, industry blacklisting, and public humiliation. Now this? The treatment plan was brutal. Chemotherapy, radiation, surgery. Doctors told her the survival rate wasn't great, but there was a chance, a small one. They laid out the facts without sugarcoating anything. Most people in her situation had maybe 2 years, if everything went perfectly. Farrah decided to fight. That's what she'd always done. Here's where her story takes an unexpected turn. She agreed to let cameras document everything. A director named Craig Nevius followed her through hospitals, treatments, and the darkest moments of her illness. Friends questioned the decision. Family members thought she'd lost her mind. "Why would you want the world to see you like this?" they asked. She had her reasons. Farrah's story aired on NBC in May 2009. It showed her weak, bald, vomiting into buckets, crying in hospital beds. It showed her screaming in pain during procedures that left her body wrecked. It showed the absolute truth of what cancer does to a person, the way it strips away dignity, beauty, and control. Nothing was edited out. Nothing was softened. Critics called it exploitative. Television reviewers wrote pieces questioning her motives. Some said she was desperate for attention, trying to stay relevant by turning her death into a spectacle. Why would she let the world see her like this? They asked, as if the answer wasn't obvious. The documentary was watched by nearly 9 million people. It started conversations about cancer screenings, especially for cancers people felt too embarrassed to discuss. Doctors reported a spike in patients coming in for checkups after the special aired. Lives were saved because Farrah refused to hide. When American treatments stopped working, when doctors ran out of options, Farrah flew to Germany for experimental procedures. She spent over $100,000 on treatments not approved in the United States, therapies that American medical boards considered too risky or unproven. Some doctors called her desperate, said she was wasting money chasing false hope. Ryan O'Neal was by her side through it all. For once in their chaotic, painful relationship, he stayed. He held her hand during chemo sessions that lasted hours. He slept on uncomfortable hospital chairs. He fed her when she was too weak to lift a spoon. Their relationship had always been chaos, screaming fights, jealousy, broken promises. But in her final months, he showed up. He didn't run. Farrah also made plans for after she was gone. She created the Farrah Fawcett Foundation, dedicating funds to cancer research and patient support. She updated her will carefully, working with lawyers to make sure her son Redmond would be taken care of despite his struggles with addiction. She set up a trust so he couldn't blow through the money on drugs. She quietly left money to Greg Lott, the college boyfriend who had been her steady friend through decades. Nobody knew about it until after she died. Greg never talked to the press about it. He kept her secret, just like he'd always kept her secrets. Her death happened the same day Michael Jackson died. Within hours, every news channel switched to covering Jackson. Farrah's passing got buried under the news cycle. Her face flashed on screen for 30 seconds before cutting back to footage of Michael's music videos. Even in death, Hollywood found a way to overshadow her. Why 2025 changed everything. Fast forward to today. 16 years after her death, Farrah Fawcett is everywhere again. But this time, it's different. Her bronze sculpture pieces, which she created herself during her years as an artist, sold at auction for $480,000. Art critics who once dismissed her as just an actress playing an artist are now calling her work important and undervalued. The Farrah Fawcett Foundation has funded over 50 cancer research projects. Money from her estate continues to pour into studies focused on difficult-to-treat cancers. Patients receive grants for experimental treatments that she once had to pay for herself. In 2024, Alana Stewart, Farrah's close friend, published a memoir with new details about Farrah's final months. She revealed conversations they had about Hollywood's treatment of women, about regrets, about what Farrah wished she'd done differently. The book reignited public interest. Podcasts started deep diving into her life. Documentaries are in production. Journalists began investigating the way studios exploited her during Charlie's Angels, and what they found was worse than anyone knew. Young celebrities are speaking out, calling Farrah a pioneer who stood up to an abusive system before #MeToo gave it a name. They're wearing red swimsuits in tribute. They're getting the Farrah Flip hairstyle not as a throwback, but as a statement. Social media is filled with threads analyzing her career, her struggles, and her courage. Gen Z is discovering her for the first time and asking, why didn't anyone tell us about this woman? The truth is simple. Farrah Fawcett was never just a poster or a hairstyle or a TV star. She was an artist who wanted to be taken seriously. She was a woman who fought for fair pay when women weren't supposed to fight. She was someone who refused to disappear when Hollywood told her to. She documented her own death to help others. She built a foundation that's still saving lives. She left behind clues in her art, her will, and her words that we're only now understanding. In 2025, we're finally listening. Farrah Fawcett's story didn't end when she died. It's still being written by every person her foundation helps, every woman who stands up to exploitation, every artist who refuses to be put in a box. She fought battles most of us will never face, and she did it with cameras watching, critics judging, and an industry trying to silence her. She didn't always win, but she never stopped trying. Her legacy isn't the red swimsuit or the feathered hair. It's the courage to fight back, the strength to keep going, and the grace to use her pain to help others. If you made it this far, I want to ask you something. What part of Farrah's story surprised you the most? Please drop a comment below and let's discuss it. Hit that like button if you think her story deserves to be heard. Share this video with someone who needs to hear about a woman who refused to give up. Farrah's fight continues through all of us. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.